Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Daily Racing Form YouTube. I am Gino Buccola alongside Scott Shapiro with producer Bobby helping us out with the preview of the Thursday race of the day, Thanksgiving Thursday. We're going to get to that race in just a moment. Before we do, we want to let you know about the Black Friday sale happening right now over at shop.drf.com. Use that coupon code BF2025, 20% off so many of your favorite daily racing form tools like the clocker reports, the past performances, the betting strategies. Check them all out, shop.drf.com. Scott, I always forgot how that Thanksgiving weekend, it's a pretty good horse racing weekend. I mean, it starts really all week. There's stuff early in the week, some different tracks, Mahoning, Zia, they run some fun races early. And then Churchill Downs really has a nice weekend on Thursday. They have the Grade 3 Fall City here. I think from the outside, a lot of people will look at Regaled because you have Regaled coming out of a third place finish in the Breeders' Cup Distaff last time out. She wasn't really in the race throughout. It was kind of a non-threatening late on the scene third, but still pretty good effort against some of the top horses. I think she's definitely a major player in here. Heck, if Royal Spa would have went to the Breeders' Cup, you kind of look at the form for some of those horses in there. Feels like she might have been a contender with no Torpedo Anna in there. I think you kind of start with those two. But a horse like Raging Sea is certainly capable if she still has some of her better races in there.
Yeah, it's an interesting field. I kind of feel like we've seen this race a couple of times, with the
Yep.
exception of maybe Raging Sea in there. Or I don't know. I mean, these races are pretty similar, Grade 3. A lot of them, I think we've seen maybe the best that we're going to get out of them. Then you've got Regaled, who we'll talk about last, but you've got that question that we, brought up last week or in one of our conversations recently, betting horses out of the Breeders' Cup in that next start when you have to assume they were kind of all in to win that race. So interesting race. I wish I was super creative in here, but we'll try to help people out.
It's a very good point as we turn the page to the Time Firm US Pace Projector. For some of these horses that are running after the Breeders' Cup, remember, that was their plan. That was their end game. So, yeah, I'm sure they're still doing well coming out of that race. But if that was the big goal, maybe they're quite like at a B effort or like B minus compared to maybe their A game going into the Breeders' Cup. For most of these races, Scott, it'll come down to the pace, what happens early on. I think we know Royal Spa can be close, but what's nice is she can also sit off the pace if need be. She's not like a need the lead horse. You have a couple others who want to be forward. I think Quiet Side stretching out from the 7 furlong sprint last time out will be a little more forward. Wouldn't be shocking to see a horse like Chill down on the inside. And then even a standout sensation is the horse coming out of a stakes race last time at Aqueduct. I think they want to be pretty close in here.
Well, you're the only standout sensation on this
Oh,
podcast.
da-dunch.
But I'm a little bit dubious of the fast pace designation here.
I agree.
I think the pace will be honest-ish, but I don't necessarily think this is a race that's going to absolutely fall apart. Things could change with, like you said, Chill with Luis Saez. He hasn't been on recently. Maybe from the rail, he makes it a little more hectic, but I'm going to take a step back from the fast pace and go more honest.
Yeah, I agree with you because I think the 2 or 3 of these horses we're talking about that could be forward, they'd be fine sitting off a little bit. Like, I don't think they're need the lead horses and they're really one-dimensional and going to battle and line up across the track in here. So let's meet the field for the Grade 3 Fall City. This one's going to go as race number 10 on Thursday, November the 27th. Happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you're all having your feast right after this race when you won tons of money. We come and start with Chill, the number 1, who was a winner last time out at Keeneland. But the problem I have with her, Scott, 4 times she's been in graded stakes races, and she hasn't been close in any of those races every time she's leveled up. She's kind of done this before where she's been impressive at allowance races and against optional claimers. They step her up, and she just doesn't really run well against graded stakes company.
Yeah, and I mean, a couple of those wins that you spoke of previously were over and off track as well. So maybe, if it rains, don't want to wish rain upon the Kentucky folks. But if it rains, maybe she moves up a little. They ran 1-2 around the track in that last race, a race lesser, 5-horse field. I think she's up against it as well.
Raging Sea is a multiple grade 1 winner. She had a really good 2024 where she wins 4 of her 6 races. She finishes second in another one. Coming out of the Breeders' Cup Distaff where she runs second, she looks like she's getting ready to take a massive step forward this year, Scott. I thought 2025 she could be right up there with Torpedo Anna. And then she wins her first start of the year in the La Troyenne in a grade 1, even though she doesn't really run her fastest or her best. I remember Darth Vader had some trouble in that race as well. But Raging Sea coming out of that La Troyenne just has not progressed at all. She's been really far back in her last couple races, just gotten distance from the field. I mean, she's been beaten double-digit lengths in 2 in a row. But they've given her some time off now. And if you look at her, she won her career debut. She's fired fresh in wins coming off of long layoffs before. And if we're talking about a mile and an eighth, she's certainly the most accomplished at this distance, where we might have some questions about some of the other top contenders. But I mean, she's going to get bet with Pratt and Chad Brown aboard. She just probably isn't going to be the type of price I want to play a horse like this coming off of her recent form.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe it's Saratoga. They just don't bolted out of Saratoga finally after 3 tries. Seeing her train at Churchill is it interesting. You know, some of the Chads train there, but not the top ones generally. Clearly, I mean, this is not the plan. After the La Troyenne, I'm sure, or even before it, the plan was the Breeders' Cup Distaff, where she ran second last year. I would have a hard time getting to her. She's going to have to beat me.
In Just My Heels is the next one up. The lack of early speed hurts this one, Scott. And all of her wins are at shorter than a mile and an eighth. To give you an example, she was 44-1 behind Standout Sensation last time out, and this is a tougher field than that. So I think she's in pretty tough here.
I agree. You know, she hasn't won recently, and when she stepped up, she's been able to pick up some pieces in a little bit softer spots. I think she's one of the least likely winners in this race, and I'd be, hitting the board here would be quite an accomplishment.
Alpine Princess is a pretty cool horse. She was precocious early on in her career, and a lot of times these horses tail off form. It looked like that was kind of happening to her, where she maybe had hit her ceiling. And then I will say late 2024, early 2025, she's gotten pretty consistent at about this level. I don't think she's a grade 1 type horse, but like solid low level grade 2 or like a grade 3. She has some speed. She can pass horses. Generally not the type of horse I'm betting on the win end, but become a fan of some of her consistency. I could see her, in the minor awards here. Another problem, though, is just based on connections. You have Brad Cox and Irad Ortiz Jr. She's very rarely like that playable of a price, Scott. She's at 4-1 in the morning line, and here she seems like she's a top tier contender. I like others a little bit more.
Queen Money Burner, though, I mean, she's a horse that I've faded quite a bit. You know, you still have to pick the winner, but she lost at 3-5, 3-5, 3-5, 4-5. She likes to lose races when she's supposed to win them. So to me, when she moves up against fields like this, it's very, very difficult to want to bet on her at any price, where she's going to be, like you said, because of the connections, if nothing else.
And you see Royal Spa beat her a couple different times in her past performances. So one of her main contenders, she just seems like she's not quite as good as that mare who we're going to talk about in just a moment. We move to Quiet Side. She's a multiple graded stakes winner. She's going to go second start off the long layoff. She was in the Kentucky Oaks. She was only 6-1 there, and she went into the Oaks after winning back-to-back graded stakes races. So she was one of the top tier contenders there behind Good Cheer. It's easy to put a line right through the Kentucky Oaks for a lot of these horses. It was a wet track that day too, but she came back in the Raven run, and she didn't have the best of trips. She was really wide. She kind of backed off. She settled. She was in the second flight. She never really looked comfortable. I'm curious though now stretching out, because I thought she would probably be a better 7 furlong kind of miler horse. And now going to a mile and an eighth, I'm not really sure this is exactly what she wants to do. I think she'll be more forward early though in this race, Scott. What do you think about Quiet Side?
I think she'll probably be on the lead if she gets out
Yeah.
of the gate. I don't know from there. She's just not a filly that's gotten better. But you could make excuses for her last 2, like you said. This is just not a barn that's been getting the best out of their horses for several months. Their top horses have not fired much. A couple upset victories have propped up Johnny Ortiz's Kentucky Circuit ROI, but just not the barn. They were red hot earlier in the year. I'm going to pass on Quiet Side, who I think was better earlier on her career.
She's also going to have to face older. And you look back at some of those 3-year-old races from earlier in the year, those horses haven't been running all that well as of late. Maybe that 3-year-old group wasn't quite as strong. We move to Neon Icon. She comes off of a 3rd place finish. She was behind Chilled last time out, behind Standout Sensation 2 starts back. We were talking about In Just My Heels, who seems like a long shot, and Neon Icon was behind that one too. So I think 7 starts in stakes races, and she's never hit the board there. She was 4th in this race last year.
Yeah, the more ground, the better is probably the positive I could say. I think she can run kind of all day at her pace. She's, both sides. She's bred to do that, so it's not surprising. But up against it from a class perspective for sure, and we'll need probably a faster pace than she's going to get.
I always liked Royal Spa earlier in her career, Scott. I was sort of waiting for a big performance for her. She was like a little light on speed figures. And then recently, it was in like February of this year, you could see she just stepped her game up. She just started getting faster and better. She started competing with better horses. It was back at Laurel. And you see the last 7 races, good. The last 5 races, I mean, very nice. 3 wins, a second, and a fourth. And in that fourth, she finished behind Seismic Beauty, Copian, and Ricci. And all of them were top contenders in their respective Breeders' Cup races just a few weeks ago. She's got multiple graded stakes winner. She has speed. She can sit off and pass horses. She has wins over Regale twice, Alpine Princess twice, and in her last 5 races, she's finished behind like 4 total horses: Seismic Beauty, Copian, Ricci, and Torpedo Anna. I mean, any one of them would be a pretty big contender in this race, Scott. She is like the second choice in here. I actually think that might represent some value for a horse who's been pretty honest. I would have liked to see them take a shot in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, but she would have been a long shot there. And here, she's going to be probably 5-2, 3-1.
Yeah, the mile and I mean, I like this horse too, but I will say I had to make a top pick in this race. I'm not going to rush the window to better for one
Yeah.
reason. Mile and an eighth is a little bit of a concern if the pace is a little bit fast, but I agree with all your points. She kind of fits at this level better than anybody else, if you will. Like she took on a grade one competition, which was legit and had to go cross country to do so. That was her lone poor performance. So I don't know if she's going to be the second choice. If she's above 3-1, I mean, that's tremendous value to your point. So I can't knock anybody that likes her. And she's a lukewarm top selection for me, as we'll see in a few moments.
But as you pointed out, you don't want to take too short on her because she still does have to pass that test at a mile and an eighth. And there are versions of this race where Quiet Side, maybe Alpine Princess, Standout Sensation all can push her a little bit on the front end. If that happens, she might get a little bit tired getting towards that last eighth. We'll move to Standout Sensation, who is a stakes winner, who's in very nice form, has won 3 in a row, has won 4 of the last 5. So I'll give credit for a lot of that, Scott. This horse is in good form. My concern is that those races have been against softer. And from a pace standpoint, a lot of the victories have been sitting pretty close to soft fractions. I don't think this gal is the quickest horse in here. I think there's probably 2 or 3 others that might be a little quicker early on. So if she has to be farther back and maybe she's 3-4 lengths behind, are we going to see that same type of effort from her? So I go back and forth because I respect what she's done, but I do think this is another step up.
It definitely is. Tom Amoss is a master at finding these spots. As we see standout sensation here, finishing at Belmont earlier this month and doing so as the 2-5 favorite, to the point that Tom Amoss finds these great spots, good purses, 150K there. He's 2-5 with this filly. I think she's taking a big step up in class. Outside post. I think this is a little bit too tough of a spot for her, but obviously you can't knock her current form.
Yeah, she'll go third start of the form cycle. And we'll see what kind of trip she can work out in this one. Moving to Corningstone, who is a multiple graded stakes place mare. She's in nice form. She's won 2 in a row over at Horseshoe Indy against a little bit softer company. So she's an Indiana bred. She steps up. She's a 10-time winner overall. But when you just look at her races against Royal Spa, for example, she's well defeated when she's faced Royal Spa a couple different times behind Alpine Princess, you see, and Regaled. And so I'm looking at the top contenders in here. They've handled her pretty easily.
Yeah, she's the richest Indiana bred female earner ever. So pretty good history there for her. She's had a good career, to say the least, for Kenny McPeak, but kind of like another one you mentioned earlier when it was chilled. When she moves up into this class level, it's been a little bit too much for her. So I think you got to take these shots for her. If you're McPeak, she's going to be there to. I think this will be the end of her. Maybe I'm maybe not sure, but I'm sure she has some value in Indiana. But this is a tough spot.
We round things out with the horse who we saw finishing third in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. That's Regale, who is a late runner. We know what we're going to get from her. She's going to drop back, Scott. She's going to make one late run. She hopes they go quick early on. She's also a Grade 3 winner. She won the Delaware Handicap on September the 28th on a muddy racetrack. She has been behind Royal Spa a couple times, though. You can see in the past performances. Did trade placings with Alpine Princess. I think for her, it just kind of comes down to trip. If this is a version of that race that we spoke of where you get Royal Spa, you get Standout Sensation, you get maybe Alpine Princess and Chilled all lining up, that sets up very well for this gal. If they don't go fast and if they're all kind of fine sitting, in the top 4, I could see her just being late on the scene for another minor award, and she probably gets overbet a little bit off of that Breeders' Cup Distaff third.
I agree with that. I also wonder, I know she's got a decent record at a mile and an eighth, but she might finish a little bit better as we see her here with that kind of non-threatening third, albeit at 30-1 out at Del Mar this earlier this month, actually, in the Breeders' Cup. But I think she's going to take too much money to really strongly consider. I have a lot of respect for what Whit Beckman in general and what he's done with this mare or filly. She's almost a mare, but what he's done with this filly, it's just a lot to ask at a short price.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I think she's going to be a minor award type for me. And as we move to selections, I think we both landed on the same one in here, Scott, with Royal Spa. Talk to us about how you stacked them up.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a race where I'm going to rush to the windows to wager on, but I do think Royal Spa is the clearly likeliest winner. She's going to get the best trip in here, but she does have to answer that mile and an eighth question. That kind of makes me a little bit leery, expecting her to be in that 3-1, 5-2 range. You see it similar. It's kind of a tough race to get overly creative, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Scott's going to go 7-10, 4-2 for me, 7-2, 8-10. I think Royal Spa is just the most solid horse right now. I feel the most comfortable about the type of effort I'm going to get from her for everyone in this race. And then you have a horse like Raging Sea, who you just don't know what you're going to get from her. If she showed up with that A game effort like she had in 2024, I think the rest of this field would be running for second, but she'll probably get bet a little bit too. The 8 horse Standout Sensation I threw in the mix, and then the 10 we just showed you the replay of her running late on the scene. 7-10, 4-2 for Scott, 7-2, 8-10 for me. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you, whoever you play, however you play them.